Hello everyone, welcome to the Subsocial live stream again. So I am Tushar Ocha, I'm DevX at
Hello
Subsocial.
everyone, welcome to the Subsocial live stream again.
Okay, so we are back again here. So welcome back to the Subsocial live stream. I was just checking if the stream is working fine, and it looks like we are all good. So as you all know, we at Subsocial building upon how you can basically create your own dapps on Subsocial, how you can create the next generation social media on Subsocial. So on this live stream, we will be covering upon how you can create dapps on Subsocial, how you can create a Twitter-like dapp using the Subsocial JS SDK. So I'm Tushar Oja, I'm DevX at Subsocial, and now without wasting any time, let's get started and discuss what we have today to see. So, as you all might know, we are basically participating in Polkadot North America Edition Hackathon. So, this is a global hackathon which you can participate right now as well. The link you will see on the slides, and you will also see in the description very soon. So, we are announcing a prize pool of $5,000 for four challenges, and for all those challenges, you can see on our GitHub, that is dapp4/subsocial bounties. So of all those four bounties, you can pick any idea and you can form a team. You can start building upon, and wherever you need our help, we'll be right there. So that's the hackathon. Now let's move forward with this particular presentation. So the idea of Subsocial is to have a basically unique and a uniquely established blockchain which has all the features you need to create your own social dapp. So what does an own social dapp means? So you all might know Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all these social medias. The problem with all these social medias are a lot of problems. For example, privacy issues, centralizations, and a lot of issues have been there. So Subsocial is basically a blockchain which is using the substrate blockchain, and it gives you all the functionalities right for building your own dapp on Subsocial. So for example, if you want to build a Twitter, if you want to build Instagram, which is decentralized, which is spread across different nodes and running without in a permissionless format, than you can do using Subsocial. So that is our idea. Now let's move forward with an example here. So we have this example app, which is app.subsocial.network, which you can try out. So this is an app which we built using our own SDK, so that we can demonstrate what are the possibilities with our SDK. For example, you can create groups, you can create permissions things, and there are a lot of things you will be able to do. And I'll be also picking up a different questions for you all in between. So if you have any, you can just keep asking. And hello everyone for joining again. So yeah, this is the basic example app we have, which is built using our SDK. You can post images, you can post embedded links, and a lot of things. Okay, so before moving forward, this is the agenda. After the discussing the agenda, I'll be picking up some of the questions. If you have any, you can post. So the agenda for today's session is to talk about the Twitter UI, which we are going to see, and we'll see some of our documentations. And then the most important part is seeing how you can integrate our SDK with your front end. So what happens with Subsocial is that you don't need to worry about building your own blockchain, maintaining different nodes across the blockchain, and ensuring about the security and all those things. We are doing it all for you. What you just need to do, you need to create a front end for your website, mobile app, or any other platform you choose to. And from that front end, you can integrate our SDK and add decentralization to it. So that's the basic idea of Subsocial. We'll be discussing about how you can integrate using like how you can do tweet functionality, how you can fetch profile data, how you can get some posts, how you can do like feature on a tweet, and how you can do follow and follow, and all these things. We'll be sharing about some learning resources. We'll be taking your questions, and a lot of things are packed in this session. So I'll be very quick. Now, before moving forward, I would love to take a few questions. from you, because after that we'll be completely getting started upon what we're going to do in this session. So, hi everyone. Uh, yes, I'm live. Thank you. Maxwell, hello. So, is there will be a recording for this for future use? Yes, of course. This session itself is being recorded, so you will be able to watch this session. And we also have a previous session in which we talked in detail about what subsocial is, what are the possibilities, and a general hackathon overall that what our bounties are. We discussed everything in the previous session, and for that also you will be able to get the link in the description shortly. So yeah, um, okay, yeah. Right after this session ends, you will be able to, like, after 5-10 minutes maybe, yeah, as per YouTube processing times, you'll be able to watch this live stream. Uh, okay, so I guess give me a moment to add a few uh, things in the description so that you will also be able to have that. Okay, I'm going to add links. Here we are. Okay, so in the description you will be able to see a link to um, our Discord. So it's really good if you haven't already joined, but if you haven't joined yet, then please do join. And I also a Telegram chat, so you can get cleared with like all your doubts there. And I've just added a few more links. Uh, yes, like I'm also adding a few more links in the chat for you. So those are basically links to our different handles and also a check-in form, which you will be able to see. So from that check-in form, you just have to register yourself, and we'll give you a special hacker role for you, so that you can form a team in that channel and discuss around that. And also, yeah, we got one more question here. We're going to discuss the Rust SDK. There's a little emphasis on it. Hi, but actually, like, we are not going to discuss REST SDK in this session. So this session is absolutely about how to integrate front ends with our JS SDK. So not REST SDK this time, but if you want, if you have any questions regarding that, if you need any help, do join Discord or Telegram. There are a few folks who can answer your questions over there. All right. I hope that helps. Now, I guess we should move forward, discuss about this quick short thing um, before coding. So basically in Subsocial, we have a few structures which you should understand. So we have basically a space. In a space, there could be multiple posts. So space is basically a idea or something, a topic, and according to that topic, there could be multiple posts on that topic. So posts, repost, and replies all are of the same categories. They are just different variants, and to all those posts there could be multiple reactions. So this is the basic flow. And we also need to understand that what data is being stored on blockchain and what data is being stored on IPFS. So IPFS, you can understand broadly about it as a decentralized storage. It's not like a Google Drive, which is a centralized one, but it helps you do the same things in a decentralized format. It's called interplanetary file system. So yeah, so all the transaction hashes, content IDs, codes, reactions, and these things are stored on the blockchain. Whereas the details about it, for example, what you posted, what are you doing right now, whatever you meant to write in your blog, all the content is going to be, and all the images, let's say you attach or videos, are going to be posted on IPFS. So that is also 100% decentralized. Now let's see and start coding. Let's see our docs and start coding. I hope you all be able to see my screen. If yes, then please do comment. I'm going to quickly open up our docs so that I can give you a quick walkthrough, and we'll start seeing what we'll see what we're going to build today. Okay, so this is our subsocial docs. You can see the URL here. It's docs.subsocial.network. I'm going to increase the size of it. All right. So yeah, this is our documentations. So in this, where you have to go inside the SDK folder. In that SDK, there is this prerequisites page. If there are some prerequisites, let's say you need to know about front end development. If you need some help, then we have curated um, all the resources for that. And I'm going to quickly go through this quick reference guide. So this quick reference guide is one which you will be going to most of the times, because in this you can just copy paste different code snippets to do different actions. For example, if you need to copy some config details, then you can just copy it from here and use it in your code. And we're going to use this particular web page a lot in this demo as well. All right. And if you need some detailed guides, then we have, basically, for example, if you need some detailed guide about spaces, then we have this detailed guide about what kind of response you will be getting, what types of methods there are available in our SDK and everything. And if you just need even very minute details, if you care about those, then you can go here and click on Subsocial JS API. So this is the API reference docs where you will be able to see all the types we have in our SDK and all the things we have, and also the exact part or exact line where these are defined. So I hope these will be helpful. But in the beginning, I would say what would be the most helpful would be this quick reference guide. Also, at the same time, I would like to quickly introduce you to our playground. So in this playground, if you are just getting started, this is your first time with Subsocial, then you can use this playground. You can open in Gitpod and use this playground to test some code snippets, copy from there, and just paste it and see the output to get a better understanding. And this is a example app which I was talking about. In this, you will be able to see all the spaces, all the posts inside those spaces. It uses the same SDK which you will be using. So you are like open to build even better applications than this. So yeah, here you can see like this is a space and these are multiple posts. You can go to a post and see all the content they have. All this is in IPFS. They are upvotes. These are called likes and everything. Now let's move forward with building. Let's see what we are going to build in this session. So I I wanted to focus on how we can integrate our SDK with our SDK with front ends. So I find out across a lot of open source projects which have a cool Twitter UI, and I really like this particular project. It has got like they haven't documented it much, but I was happy enough to use their UI library, basically not UI library, but their UI structures and everything, so that I'll have a basic boilerplate. It's just the front end. There's no logics attached to it. It's just the styling, CSS, and HTML, and yeah, that's it. What we're going to do now is that we're going to attach this UI with our front end so that people can see how things work and how things happen. So for that, what I have did, I basically created this particular repository which you will be able to access. Um, so yeah, this particular repository I created, it's private. I'm going to make it public right away so that you will be able to clone this and do some work on it. Oh, sorry, have to make it public. All right, this repository is public now. You all can access it. It's at github.com/dapp/Twitter example. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly clone this repository in my local machine and see how does this UI look like. All right. So I'm going to just say go to desktop, dir Twitter, cd Twitter, and I'm going to clone this repository. Yeah, so if there's any question you all can ask. I got one question. When we create these spaces, like they are like create subreddit on Reddit. Subsocial is Reddit, and any space I create is subreddit. Okay, so yeah, of course, like you can think of it in the same way. So that's the beauty of it, that our abstraction is very simple. It's just that there is a bucket, and in that bucket, you can put a lot of things, but we expect those things to be of a similar fashion. For example, you have a space in that you can put multiple posts. Those posts, of course, you have the freedom to post anything in it, but we expect that a space, let's say if a space is about basketball, then all the posts would be related to basketball. If you are creating a social media for DJs who love music and who love to mix things up in music and just create something awesome, which I am not much familiar with, so they can create a space and people can just post relevant content on it. So that is what the freedom we give through this architecture. Okay, and in detail, if you want to know, you can watch our previous session, of course. That is on the same YouTube channel, and from that, you will be getting a better understanding on all these things. So, I'm going to basically do quickly going to show you what this is. So, to this example app, which is Twitter. So this is going to basically start the basic UI for you for us, so that we can just quickly get started. Once we see the UI, we start integrating our SDK in it, and it would be really easy you see right away. So it takes usually a few seconds to just build everything and get all the dependencies from the internet for this particular project. And this is right now, it's basic a simple UI. Have added a boilerplate for you to get started. And upon that, we'll add all the dependencies and all the things which are needed to integrate Subsocial. So yeah. All right. So we should be able to see UI in action. So yeah, this is the UI of this project. You can basically type anything here, username and password. You log in. Um, is this login not working? All right. So yeah. So you basically log in, and there's two, three buttons and the basic Twitter UI structure. Now I'm going to show you what we will be building. Give me a moment. All right. So I'm going to open this repository in VS Code so that we can start writing code for it. I hope you all are able to see this particular project. I'm going to increase the font size a bit so that you all can see. So the structure is basically there's some few fake data about a few tweets, which we don't care about, and in that we have pages. The first page is the index page, which just redirects people to the login page. And on the login page, we already saw the UI. It's basically asks people to log in, and they can just put up any data they want in this. All right, and from here we have this home page. That's it. In this home page, we have the styling for a standard Twitter homepage, where we see a Twitter box and we see a few inputs and a few tweets on the home tab, and that's it. That's what we have right now. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is that we're going to bypass and we're going to create a login system here, first of all. So logging into any of the dapps is not usually through username or password or anything like that. For that, what we do, we use our wallets. So this is Safari browser. In this, we don't have any kind of a wallet or something. So I'm going to quickly use open up Brave, in which do have a Polka.js wallet. So what Polka.js wallet is, it's basically like if you have used MetaMask or anything like that. So it's basically a wallet for the Polkadot ecosystem, which you can use. And what's the oh yeah, we stopped the development server, so we're going to start the development server here. We say yarn dev, so it's going to start the server, and we're going to open up this page here. So yeah, so this is the basically the extension from which you have multiple accounts and there are multiple addresses. So we have to sign in via that. So we're going to implement that thing now. So for doing that, first of all, we have to use a new package dependency, and that dependency is Polkadot, like Polkadot extension dapp. So that allows you to get some like all the features for this to interact with this extension they have created, because it's created by the Polkadot ecosystem. So we are going to do the same thing. I'm going to say yarn add at the rate, and I'm going to enter the right dependency name here for you all to see, so that there's no typo. So once I add this dependency, I'll be able to get all the extensions people have for that. And we're going to go to the login screen so that we can see what's up on this page. So this is the login screen. We have a handle submit button here. So what happens on this, I'm going to bifurcate the screen into two so that we can see what's happening. All right. I hope the text is clear and you all can see the text. Is the text clear? Can you all see this? See the text of the VS Code? Just let me know if there's any discomfort. All right. So what we need to do is we don't need to use these buttons to bypass this particular form. So I'm going to clear up this use effect hook. This is the basic front end integration I'm doing just for the front end changes I'm doing right now. I'll tell you when I'm especially integrating these extensions or integrating the SDK. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to say connect wallet, okay. And in this connect wallet here, what I have to do, I don't need to I don't need all these forms. So I just need this button here, and I don't need this complete form, because we just need one button to just that says just sign up. All right. Right, and here we'll have an on click event, on click, and on this on click we'll say connect wallet. When we go up here, we don't even need this thing. We do need a router. I'll tell you why, just to navigate from this screen to the home tab. And now what we're going to do is we are going to log in to this particular extension. We'll get the details about all the addresses they are from the extension. All right. So for that, we are going to use something called is Web3 injected, so that to check if there is like the Web3 component injected inside the browser. So it's basically a Web3 component which is there in the browser and which we can get. So we can quickly say is Web3 injected? Await from we're going to import this thing, import it from the dependencies we just added right now. This is Polkadot extension tab, and we're going to check if the language is correct here. What's the error? It's declared, but it's never read. Okay, so that's not an issue. We're going to read it, use it anyway. And we also need something called Web3 enable. So this is something we need to call every time we want some data from our accounts or something like that. And we also need the subscribe. All right. And is Web3 injected? So that's the correct spelling for it. Now what we're going to do up here is that we're going to check if is we're going to check injected extensions extensions. So in that we'll wait for Web3 enable. So we have to enable for our dapp. We have to enable this extension for our dapp, and let's say this dapp is Twitter dapp Subsocial. So I set the name for the dapp, and I am going to check if the browser is supporting the extension or not. If the browser have any extension or not. So if it doesn't have any extension, like it's not injected, then we'll say browser don't browser do not have any Volca extension. All right, and we're going to return. In a similar way, if we also have to check if it is um, injected extensions dot length. So what we're going to say, like if they have not authorized us, like they have there are extension the extension is there, but they have blacklisted the dapp or they have not authorized us. So we'll say polka dot extension have not authorized us to get accounts. All right, we can do some similar sort of statements here, and from here now we have we have checked all the conditions. Now we can basically get all the accounts here. So to get all the accounts, we say subscribe, and we're gonna subscribe to this event where we get all the extra accounts. And in this, what we're going to do, we got all the accounts in this thing, and we're going to check if the accounts dot length is greater than 0. That means there are a few accounts to this dapp for this dapp. And here we're going to say addresses sorry addresses. So we're going to store all the addresses from the extension, because there can be multiple accounts. So we're going to just say accounts dot map, and in that we're going to have account, and from that account we can just say account dot address. So here we got the address of all the accounts, so all the accounts possible. So we're going to quickly log for this addresses and see if we are getting these addresses or not. So I'm going to open inspect element here, and I'm going to go to console log, and I'm going to move it below the mark here. So we have it here, console. Okay. So when I click on this button, it opens the Polkadot.js extension, and it says, do we want to allow it for this Twitter dApps of social? I say allow this access, and now you can see I have all the extensions there. So, okay, so is there any questions? I just saw there are a few comments. I'm going to see all the comments right now. So we have successfully linked Polkadot.js extension with our dApp. Now we're going to link the Subsocial SDK to get details about these accounts. All right. So let's see the comments right now. So are we going to discuss? We got this. The GitHub sites do not exist. I think I don't have access. Are they private repos? No, these are not private repos. You should have access to all of these. Let me add a comment for you so that you can get all the links. Okay, add a comment for. Okay, now I'm going to comment here so that you can get all the links. For example, the Google form for the check-in form should be working, and we have the Polka.js hackathon form. I'm going to add. So, give me a moment, please. Hack- Hackathon form. This is the link for the check-in form. This form you have to basically fill in so that we get your Discord ID and we'll add you to a relevant channel with the hacker role. All right. So, what were the other questions? Everything good? Can you guys access the dapp? Because here all the info about the accounts logged in be stored. Yeah. So what happens, Maxwell, here is that you don't need to store like all the accounts you access here. Like you actually don't need to store. It's just that you store the mapping between those accounts. For example, this account done this thing. This account posted this thing. You don't need to store this account, right? You don't need to store the address in a Wikipedia way. You just store what they did. So you store like the transactions they call. All right. So these are basically these all the addresses are depending upon the extensions. Like depending on the user, these might be like two, three accounts. There might be four, five accounts. Maybe a user just want to use one of the address. They want to use some other one. So you don't need to store it. You just store the one the user selected, and you do the transactions accordingly. So now let's look at here. So we have five addresses. What we're going to do, we're going to use the first address here because I believe that the first address would be the base address. But you can, of course, in a future way, you can in future you can basically ask a picker so that the user can select any one of the address from all the accounts there. So as of now, I'm not going to add that much complexity. I'm just going to add this address. Like I believe that the first address is the one which user wants to connect, and which is the first address, the at the zeroth index. So this address is which the user is going to use my dapp with. Do Polkadot.js extension supports other Polkadot wallets? Example, Talisman. I believe yes. Yes, they do. All right. So uh, if they don't support, there might be some other dependencies for those particular extensions, and you can check on their websites for that. And if you still face any problem, then you can ask on our Telegram to get in detail answers for those. All right. Now what we're going to do, we got an address. Now here we are going to integrate our Subsocial SDK. The first action out of all the actions is that we use this address and get about this address. For example, if there is a bio attached to this address, if there's some information related to this address, if there is a name for this address or something like that, we're going to fetch some content from this address. All right. That is what we're going to do. Now, how to do that? We are going to integrate Subsocial SDK. So what we're going to do, I'm thinking of creating a new folder outside the components. I'll call it logics. So all the logical things which I do, like invoking some functions of the blockchain or doing some stuff, storing some details, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to create a new file here. It's called config dot ts. All right. In this file, I'm going to store the config details. All right. And I'm going to export these config details. Now, what are these config details? These are the config details which I need to connect to my subsocial chain, which could be testnet, which could be the mainnet. So for doing that, I need this thing. Now, where do I get it? You can get it on our the link I already shared with you all, the quick reference guide. This one. Okay, so from this, if you go here, you see the configuration. So you can see the testnet and the mainnet configurations here. So for example, in this case, in my case, I'm going to use mainnet for now. I'm going to change it to testnet after we see some reasonable content, because on the testnet right now we don't have much content which you can add in future, of course. All right. So we have added these this config. All right. Now we need to create a new file called let's say index.ts. In this, we are going to connect with Subsocial. So connecting with Subsocial, what we need to do, we need to add this import statement. I'm going to copy from there and paste it here. So I'm expecting there should be this dependency. Let's see if we already have this dependency or not in this. So there is this, there is already these dependencies. So you will already get these dependencies out of the box. But if you are creating a new project and you need these dependencies, then you just need to copy paste these commands in your terminal: yarn add this, yarn add this, and after that you will be having all these dependencies in your package.json file. Now I have added the import statement. Now what I have to do next, I have to set this config. All right, I have to create a function to connect to the SDK. So I'm saying const export const connect, and in that connect, what's going to happen? It's going to call the await new flat subsocial API and with the config details which we're going to have from this previous file. All right, and this would be an asynchronous function. Also, I need to maintain an instance of what like this object, so that I can basically, without connecting again, I will be able to basically get this thing. I'm going to say let uh, flat API, which would be of type subsocial flat API, maybe. The exact type, let's see. It's flat subsocial API. All right, flat subsocial API. This is the type, and we're going to set this type in this flat API. All right. So we have created the connect function. That's all. That's all you need to connect. That's all you need for connecting to Subsocial. Now we need to call this connect function. Where do we going to call this connect function? So we're going to call this connect function as soon as someone opens this particular dapp. Someone opens this project. So I can go to the app.js file maybe, and I'm going to call this connect function right above everything. Here, I have to use the proper directory here. Config, maybe what's logics? All right, logics. We need to connect, and I guess that should be it. So yeah. Now if I just refresh the page and see what's going on. All right, no, we should not do it here. I guess we need to do it at some other place, which is a pretty good place, I guess. This is not the best place to do it. Yeah. So we're going to do it here. All right. And we're going to import, add the import statement. We do have use effect. We don't need these things. Put in these forms. Also don't need link. And we are getting an error. So for this error, it says Polkadot CJS package info is not exported from this file. .js util networks field, and all right, no problem. So for this, what we're going to do, we have to uh, rebuild the project, I guess, because it feels like the project is outdated since we added a few dependencies for the extension or something. So I'm going to delete the node modules folder and the yarn log file. I'm going to say yarn, and meanwhile it does, I'll pick up a few questions if you have to ask them in the comments. So if you have any questions, do ask them. Okay, so we got a few questions. What will you suggest for front end to migrate from Web 2 to Web 3 to learn? Any books or materials? Could you make a dapp force repositories public so we can access them? I made already the repository public, which are needed. For example, like if you can tell which repository you are talking about, then I'll be able to help. But most of the repositories or what I have been using are public. What will you suggest for front end migrate from Web 2 to Web 3? So, like that's the most interesting part about Web 3 is that you have to migrate. You are not, as a developer, you are migrating from Web 2 to Web 3, but at the same time, you also have to think about the normal users of Web 2 to migrate them from Web 2 to Web 3. For doing that, you have to build apps which are easy to use. So the simplest way would be to understand, for you, I'm just telling Mixwell that I would suggest you to understand about what Web3 is, how things work in this ecosystem. For example, how Subsocial, what it is, blockchain, and what's the importance of it is, and why Web3. Once these things are clear to you, you can basically, you don't need to even like build your own chain and do those things which require a lot of securities and a lot of maths to do cryptography. You could just simply use these SDKs to do the thing. All right. The repo is public, but if you click on the link above directly, you can see that the URL have a view link. Just delete it. Oh, maybe like on the comments, the link might have got like disrupted. I'm going to paste a new link. So I can do it right now. So yeah, maybe I can post the link. For this repository as well, I can give you the link. Give me a minute. So this repository, you can get the link here. All right. Seems like this is done. Let's see if this error resolves. If not, we have to do something else. We might be missing a few dependencies. Maybe extensions dapp dependencies. All right. So now you can see like it's trying to connect to our subsocial network. So that is our now once that is connected, you will be able to see here that subsocial API is initialized. So once it goes to the screen, it starts processing and starts connecting to our subsocial blockchain. So it takes a few seconds to connect to that blockchain node. So once that is connected, you will be able to run all the functions very quickly. So like it takes a few seconds to basically do the first connection. And once that is done, you will be able to see in your logs that subsocial substrate API initialized. Now we were here. Now what we have to do is we wanted to basically integrate subsocial. So we already did. That's it. That's the integration you need to know. You need to do for subsocial. Now we're going to invoke different methods from our blockchain to do the things. For example, now I want to invoke a method to get the data from this profile. So I want to create a function here which would be like fetch profile. So in this fetch profile function, so most of the people you face like in the chats as well, people face the problem of how to connect with subsocial, but that's how you do it. And we connected here. Also, one more connection thing I remember, if you were also facing this issue that there's something called course here, like I just saw it. You were if you were getting this thing, what you have to do is right at this place, just do something like you just have to add this property. Let me get this property quickly. Give me a minute. So yeah, just add this little property use server. and set the property like HTTP request method to be get. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now we were trying to fetch some profile. So to fetch a profile, you would need some parameter. For example, you need an address like this. Get me the details about this address. So how this works internally, I'm going to tell you, and I'm also going to say a login boolean. So what that does is basically, if let's say I don't need it, maybe I can avoid it for now. All right. So I fetch a profile from this address. Now, what actions I need to do it? I'm going to go up on my quick reference guide, and from here, I scroll to the profile section. Like this is reading data, and I go to the profile section. I need to fetch a single profile, so I copy up this thing from here, paste it here, and I have to change this account ID to the address. All right. Now this is going to fetch the profile for me. That's it. That's all you need to do. If you want to see what it prints, you can just say console.log profile, but I believe it will work for us. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a few more fields so that we can save the instance of this profile for this particular session. All right. Later on, you can use local storage or something like that so that you are able to store the current profile status, like the current status that user is logged in, into some cookies or something. All right. For now, I'm going to basically store it in this session only, which would be simply like I'm going to use this selected address, and yeah, it would be a string. I'm going to set the selected address is equals to the string we have. So the address the user entered, and we also going to say the selected profile so that we can also hang around with the profile data. Would be this profile. All right. We'll just say select selected profile, and this would be profile data. All right. uh, Profile data, and it can also be undefined. For now, why this can be undefined and how things work for this. So what happens? The beauty of being subsocial is that, let's say you created DApp, there are 10 or 20 people right now who are interested in creating a DApp, and all the 20 people build decides to build a DApp on Subsocial. One builds Instagram, one builds Twitter, one builds something else. Now with Subsocial, there is something called chain profile. So with this on-chain profile, let's say someone on Instagram sets their name, some bio or something like that, then that can also be accessed by the Twitter tab. So they can also see the user's name, so that they can like once they link, of course, once you link your wallet, then they will be able to see the name and they can use the same property, so that you don't need to enter it again and again, and you can change it anytime. And if you want that it should be separate for your tab, then you can also do it. You can just store inside a new schema you decide on your IPFS. So as of now, I did this thing. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to the login component, and I'm going to just say fetch profile. All right, and I'm going to pass the address here. So I'm going to pass the first address. Just fetch the profile for me for the first address. Let's say I do it here, and I'm going to clean all the logs. And I'm going to tap on this button. So it already fetched the profile for me. If you see here, it this is the response I got. In the structure, I got this particular create content ID. This is the IPFS ID for it. I got the followers count, that I got one follower. I am following to three different accounts. I'm following to four different spaces. Following, and is this profile created on Subsocial? What's the reputation? What time it was created? And a few other details. So now you can see all the details are there, are present over here. So we are able to fetch some data from Subsocial. Perfect. Perfect. All right. What we're going to do next? Let's see. So we have fetched the profile. Now we're going to navigate user to the home screen. How do we navigate? We just say router um, dot move, maybe push, router dot push, or replace if there is something on replace. Yes, there it is. We're going to replace the user to homepage. Perfect. Let's do it again. So what happens? You click on login. It gets the data from the profile, and it should take you to the homepage. Now we got an error that cannot resolve these images. Let me see. Give me a moment, please. It's tweet index.ts. Maybe like the address is not correct because we already have the image here. Tweet slash index. Yes. Okay, I believe that the address is not correct. There should be, I guess, three backslashes. Okay. Um, cannot find the module list. All right. Okay, perfect. So you can see that we are open the Twitter dapp UI. So that's the UI I got from the open source project. So what we're going to do next is we're going to load few tweets from here. We're going to implement a tweet feature so that we can write some content up here. All right, and we're going to basically do a few like thing, like you can like a tweet. All this thing we're going to do now. Let me take a quick break to drink some water, and meanwhile you can ask your questions. And also let me know if you picked up any subsocial bounty which you will be building. I'm going to add the link to the bounties here, twitter.com/appforce slash social bounties. We have a few bounties here. I'm going to give you the link for that in the comments itself. Thank you very much for the compliment, and I also mentioned the link for the bounty. You can see that. Right. Give me a moment, please. All right, we are back. Let's move forward with what we're going to do now. So Uh, here you can see that we have the Twitter UI. Now, I guess we should first of all fetch some tweets from the internet, and then what we're going to do when once we fetch some tweets, we write some tweets, and we can like some tweets. That's all we can do. Now, just tell me which thing we should do first. We should fetch some tweets. Post some tweet, some content up here, or we do reaction. Of course, reaction would be the end, but what should we do first? We write a logic to basically post some content on social. That sounds cool. Or we just work upon uh, logics and start writing fetch. All right, no problem. So for fetch, first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to write a logic function for it, as this is pretty fun, I believe. So once we write the logic function, we're going to call this function to get all the data, and once we get all the data, we're going to structure it in a proper way according to this UI schema. And after structuring, we're going to throw this thing, and we just fix it on these tiles of a tweet tile like this. And there should, you just show this text, you show the numbers here, retweets, comments, likes, and these things you show about the creator address here, and do similar things. So that's what we're going to do now. All right. So to fetch some content up here, what we have to do is we have to create another function, of course. Yes. So to create another function, what we're going to do now, we call this function as fetch post, maybe export const fetch post. It's very pretty easy to create functions on Subsocial, logical functions on Subsocial, because you got this quick reference guide. I'm soon going to rename it to a cheat sheet because it helps a lot. So I want to get a post by its ID, or I am going to get a post by its space ID. Now, what it is? So post by its ID means you know the exact post which you want to fetch. Let's say the ID with 1230. So the 1230 post ID would be just one ID, would be just one post, because one ID maps to a single post. So if you want to fetch a particular post, then you do it by ID, and you also need to have the ID of it. But let's say you don't have the ID of a particular post, but you have the ID of a space, then you can get all the posts of that space. So that's what we're going to do now. We will have a space and we'll get all the posts of that space. That's what we're going to do. We're going to first use this code snippet, and I'm going to test it if this is working. And then we're going to do a few changes, and let's see how it goes. So we're going to have a space ID. I'm going to make the space ID as a global value. The reason being that because for most of the things, we will have the same space ID for, let's say, liking a tweet, or getting some more details, or posting some content. So that's why we're going to have the same thing. I'm going to, oh my God, cancel. Yeah, I hope you are still able to see the content here. So I need the space ID. So a lot of time, like these type issues happen. So just to ignore them quickly, you can just close your eyes and type as any. And once that is done, you can, like me, just see if things are working fine or not using this console log, the best feature ever. And I'm going to open the terminal again, on the terminal, sorry, console. And at this place, once I see the home page, I should be able to fetch all the posts. So I'm going to go to the home page. Okay, so we have these pages, and in that pages we have a few logics around here, and things goes like this. We don't care about the left and the right sides as of now, because all the tweets and all the content is on the center tile. So we're going to open the center component in this UI, and in this UI I'm going to use effect. So use effect is basically you give it certain observables, and once they change, it's going to run it again. So if you don't pass any of these dependencies, then it's going to run it only for the one time, and it's in the complete life cycle of the component. I know you all already know about it, but it's just that I wanted to say. So we connected again. Once this connection is done, I guess um, we should do something like dot then. And I believe like we already might have connected to Subsocial, but still, uh, once this connection is done, what we need to do, we need to call this method to fetch the posts, fetch all the posts. Uh, okay, so to fetch all the posts, I can like this promise sometimes work and sometimes it don't work. So I like this method. I create something called fetch data uh, as an asynchronous function, synchronous function. And in this asynchronous function, I'm going to await for connect. And once this is done, I'm going to await for the data, like which is fetch tweets, fetch what we said, posts. Technically, it's not just posts; it's tweets in our case. So we can rename the functions accordingly. And in this use effect, I'm just going to call the fetch data so that I can use async and await. And let's see. So it tries to connect to the Subsocial SDK. It initiated the connection. It's connected to the Subsocial SDK, and it has fetched all the posts. So there are 106 posts you can see, which are logged here. So I'm going to open the first one here. So the first one is, since the space ID one is reserved for Subsocial for obvious reasons, we have some content here. You can see the content says the body message of that post, the image, ID, what it is, I'm going to tell you right now, and the title and some few tags. So all this schema of this content, schema means the structure. For example, it needs to have a body, it needs to have a title, it needs to have an image or something like that. You have the freedom to choose your own schema for the content. But if you want your content to be reflected in the same way as it reflects on app.subsocial.network, then you should also match the rhythm with it. All right, you should match the schema with it. Now, if I was talking about this image, what it is, what this address is. So this address is called CID. This is content ID, you can call. Um, what happens whenever you basically push something to interplanetary file system, also known as IPFS, then it just puts that to all the nodes there, and there is a pinning service which gives you the ID for accessing that particular file which you throw out on a decentralized network. So that's the ID. You just get this ID here. All right. Now, what I am going to do, since we know that we are able to fetch all the posts here, we need to do a few more things. We're going to go back here. I'm going to change my network configurations to testnet because we will be soon posting some content and doing a lot of things here. So I'm going to go to the configuration. I'm going to choose testnet. I'm going to copy and I'm going to change it to testnet. All right. So change to testnet. Now, if I go to the first, we go through the logs and I go up here in this index logic file, we fetch all the posts. All right. So if you are using the testnet, there might be a possibility that there is no space available for you. I mean, there is space for you to build, but there is no space, subsocial space, for you already, which in which you will have the access to post some content. You will have access to get all the content. For example, you can use MySpace ID in the testnet 1015, I guess. I did before like testing, so previous in the previous testing maybe. So in this space ID, you will get some content, so you can test fetching on testnet. Yeah, and once you want to post something, either you follow up this space or you create your own space. All right, so that's what you have to do. Now, I'm since I've gone back up here, I'm going to just run it again, and now I see nothing, but I should have seen something. So I'm going to just refresh and see if we get some content up here. You can use proper state management so that you don't need to refresh the page again and again. So here you can see I got some content here. So the content says hello world. All right, you can see this. So this is the one post I already have, and there are a few content structures. So the structure object you see in this response is coming from the blockchain, and this content object is coming from the ID you given in this structure. So this is coming from the blockchain, and the content object is coming from the IPFS. All right. So that is done. Now we are able to fetch some posts. Awesome. Perfect. Now what we do need to do next. We are able to fetch some posts. We logged it. We should also return it. It's not a good way to just keep it with us. We're going to return these posts. Now I go back here. I should be able to receive some tweets data. All right. I got some tweets data here. If I'm going to log it, I'll got the same response again, but it doesn't make sense to log it again. All right. We're not going to write some small code snippets to do small things. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to map this data. We're going to take this data and we're going to map it into a better format. So the format, what I mean by the format is that I have some fake tweets here. You can see the format here. This is the format we need to get. All right. So this is the format which we need to get from this format, the structure we have. All right, this structure, this content. So once we come up with this format, we are able to use this structuring of this UI. All right. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just say const uh, tweets data is equals to data.map and tweet. And also, don't worry on this that I'll be adding after the session, of course, after 2 3 hours of the session, or maybe tomorrow, I'll add timestamps so that you'll be able to access the right parts in between and like use this video after the sessions as well. So once we get this, now what we need to do, we let's say get we say const content so that we just make this correct here. We say content and what was that struct from this tweet. Okay. So once we get there, we need to just return the structure in this format. First of all, there would be some ID, and the ID here would be structure.id. So this is the ID of the post, and we need some description. So I believe like I'll keep the description as the content, main content of the tweet. So it would be the content dot body. All right, and the next thing would be username. So in the username, as you can see, it's the username here. In the username, as of now, I'm just putting it as the content title. So I'll try to put the title in the username when I post something. Okay, and what we need next, we need a name, and the name would be tweet dot maybe structure, I guess, structure dot owner address could be the name. So that will show that owner address dot 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 in between, like in a short form, so that people will be able to see that. I'm just, for my safety, I'm just going to call to string on it, so that if it was in any other structure, then it would have been written avatar. Now this is interesting that we have an avatar. What we have to do, so I'll, if you see like on the all the images or something, like if it's a post and you can of course attach image, you have that freedom, you can attach any number of image or any data, video, audio, something like that, but you will be deploying it to IPFS, and then you will get the CID. From that CID, you can still get the content detail, like the exact file, using like subsocial staging.subsocial.network slash IPFS slash the CID. But I don't want to add that complexity at this stage. So what I'm going to do, just going to use this person's image to give credit to the author who wrote this amazing UI for us in the open source community. I'll use his avatar, and here we also need to pass a date, and the date could be new date or now. We don't even need new for it. All right. What we need next, we need likes. Okay, for likes, how do we give a like count here? In this like count, I can just give the upvotes. We call it upvotes in this structure. So that if you remember, I told you about what data we store on blockchain and what data we store on IPFS. So these upvotes and downvotes we store on the blockchain itself. So this is called upvotes count. You just make sure to do dot to number, so that it's in the correct format of the JavaScript. And we also need replies. uh, Replies, and in the same way we're going to just say structure dot replies count dot to number. And next thing, we need retweets. Sorry for wasting much of your time on this. Retweets, we have something for this maybe, or if we don't have, we can just set the replies. If we don't have something, I'll just say replies. All right, so we did this thing. Now we have created the perfect structure. Now we need to replace this structure with this tweets. We don't need this fake data anymore. We'll get the data from all the nodes spread across the world in a minute. So we got this, and we're going to say set tweets, and we're going to give the tweets data here. Now you think what sets tweets is, we need to create it. It's not something we got already. So we're going to say tweets set tweets and use state, and it would be an empty array initially, and we're going to set the type of it would be the same as it was for the I tweet. So that's the same type the UI creator defined. All right. So going back here, we don't need it anymore. I'm going to remove this comment. And since there are few type issues, I'm going to do this small trick to solve this. So that is also done. Now let's save this file. Now we are able to see some content here. Perfect. Now, if you see, we are able to fetch the content from the IPFS, from the subsocial blockchain, and we are able to display it right here. We are able to display it right here on this blockchain. It says "Hello World." It was the only post I made. You can see also on here. This is what the data we are getting. One thing I'm going to change in the UI short right now quickly is about this tweet component, that we should basically use some ellipsis here, so that this address is not taking much of the space. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this to 0 2. uh, 5, and I'm going to add a few dots, and I'm going to props dot name dot slice props dot name dot length minus 4, and yeah. So this would look like in this way, a bit clean. So we have shortened this address. You are also able to see that it shows one upvote. So that's exactly the upvote number of upvote we have from the blockchain. It's not like a fake number. It's just showing up here, and also it shows 00 replies. You can make some replies to see on this page. So now we also achieved one more milestone. We are able to fetch some contents of a space. All right. Now I'm going to quickly write because you might not like next thing we will be doing is writing some content on the blockchain. Now that is pretty interesting thing how we write some content, how we take users permission to write some content because we need to ask user to sign a transaction, how to make a transaction, how to throw that transaction to the blockchain, how that transaction process. So there's still a lot more we're going to learn in this session itself. So stay tuned, and I'm going to take another water break. If you have any questions, do ask me here. All right. So I just realized it's more than an hour we are working on this. It's really good. We are going to make some good progress. The hackathon is about 20 days from now. You just make sure right after this session, you fill in a check-in form so that we access you the hacker role in our Discord and also join our Discord. And from there, you just keep on discussing about the subsocial bounties, form teams. Because if you form a team, your progress like let's just it will just double up your progress day by day. So I would highly suggest that, and just let me know if you face any issues, if you have any queries, then do ask me. Now we need to create some content, we need to post some content on the blockchain. How does that work? How does that work? So there are two, three things. Like let's say there are three things which you can post on the content, which you can write on the blockchain. The first is a space. You can create a new space. You can create a new post. You can create a new reaction. So that reaction is upvote or downvote, and a space could be anything which will have a lot of content inside it. So we are not going to create a new space here because I already do have a space which I mentioned, but I'm going to write that code for you, and also going to show it to you that how that works. And we're also going to create a new function that is a generic that will basically help us to run different transactions. Generic, that's a generic function that help us run different transactions. So as of now, I'm going to quickly write a commit here so that we mark this progress. Integrated Subsocial SDK and fetched content. All right. Okay, I have to add a few changes to this. First of all, add these changes to staging. All right, we did this thing. Now, what we need to do, we need to create a space. Now, it's pretty okay. Before that, if you still want to see this was the thing I was talking about, that there is something called a space, and there in that there could be different posts, repost, and then in that there would be different reactions. So let's go back to the code and see all these things in action, and let me know if you see that content size is not big enough. All right. Let's move forward with creating a space. Now, to create a new space, again, it's pretty easy to create a new space. You just say create space, you say async, um, you create that function. Now go to the quick reference guide. We have been covering the reading data. Now it's time to write some data. You need to add this import statement. Just do as it says. You added the import statement. Now it says add this data here. I copied this data. I pasted this data. Now what this is all about. So it says IPFS image CID IPFS.save file. So what this save file is, if you want to attach an image, let's say the profile photo of your space, which you can see up here that we do have profile photos for different spaces. Like at this place, you will be able to see that Subsocial Space is having this profile photo, Bill Space is having this profile photo, and something like that, like these. Then you can just add this file and we'll deploy it to the IPFS for you. But what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to first of all remove this statement because I'm not going to add an image. It's not necessary always to have an image. All right. Um, then we're going to say subsocial dot IPFS. So this is a small change which you have to make sure that flat API we already have been using. So you just say flat API dot subsocial dot IPFS dot save content. All right. Here we are getting a few things. We don't need this image parameter because we don't have defined this thing. And what's the other error? Type this image URL links CIT. It should not be an issue. The reason being that we should have basically the ability to set whatever the content we're going to save. So I can use something like while closing my eyes, I can just type something here that will resolve this thing. Now I am back up here. So all set. We have registered something on the IPFS. We have saved some content on the IPFS with just this line of a code. Now we are going to post this content, like we're going to invoke a smart contract. We are going to invoke a blockchain method, RPC method, to do this thing for us. So what we're going to do now is basically we're going to call the substrate API, and that substrate API is going to look something like this: await flat API dot subsocial dot substrate dot API. All right, nice bit of nesting. And here we can see space transaction. So let's say this is a transaction which is related to a space. We say space transaction. We say substrate API dot tx dot spaces dot create space. All right. If you see on the quick reference guide, we should have mentioned this here. So you didn't have to remember it. It's just that I did, so I just showed to you that I do remember this thing. All right, but I don't remember all these parameters. So I am just going to copy paste these here. All right. So we have done this thing as well. Now, this does not mean you have done your thing. There's still a lot more left. What I mean by that, you have created a space. So now writing content on the post, writing something on the blockchain is pretty different than reading some data. So while you were reading some data, you were mostly done by this function, by invoking the subsocial SDK function. But when you are writing some content on writing some data on the blockchain, you have to sign a transaction. What does a sign mean? So you have a public key, and now you authorize that you are doing this action. So for that authorization, which is done by cryptography, you have to sign a message. That is something like you sign a check that yes, I am authorizing the bank to do this thing for me, because the transaction will be processed by the client and the subsocial blockchain, but you as an individual are going to authorize that transaction. So for that authorization, we're going to sign a transaction. All right, and then send this transaction. Once you sign a check, you send that check to the bank so that they can process it, right? So that's what we're going to do in a decentralized way. So we have that space transaction here. We have set all the all the values. So parent ID means if this space is a part of a space. What's the handle name if you want to choose for the space? Handle name is basically for subsocial. It's subsocial for Tushar. It would be like something like Tushar space. And there could be some permission, which is also an optional parameter. We don't need it right now. Once you do this thing, you have to sign a transaction. But signing a transaction is a bit different. So if you see up here, I was saying that you need to ask for a mnemonic. Mnemonic is a very secure thing which you have to take. You don't push your mnemonic to any GitHub or anywhere else, because this is a private key. If you give mnemonic to anyone, literally anyone, then you don't have any controls on your funds. Just forget about it. So you don't share your mnemonic. So why would someone as an individual is going to share the mnemonic with you? They don't going to share it with you, even though your project is open source or something like that. Still, people not going to trust you. There are very few people who are trustworthy. For example, right now, this Polkadot.js extension is trustworthy. This extension is holding my mnemonic, right? So we can ask this trustworthy person to sign something for us on user's behalf. So user is going to ask this extension. So how this is going to do? We are going to ask this trustworthy person, this Polkadot.js extension, that please sign this transaction on user's behalf. But this trustworthy person, since it's a trustworthy person, it's going to ask the owner that, are you sure you want to sign this transaction? The owner says yes, but then it also checks for the owner. Are you the right owner? Just enter the password for us, right? How this things like, it sounds interesting. Let's see how it works in action. So what we're going to do now, we are going to basically create a generic function, because this logic is pretty much repetitively coming again and again for signing a transaction. So I was like fed up writing it every time. So I'll create a separate function which I'll call sign and send transaction. So I'm doing both the steps here. I'm also signing a transaction, like I'm also asking the user to sign a transaction and send the transaction to the blockchain. Const. Alright. In this, I'm going to expect a transaction which would be of type any, so that I don't worry about the type extension. And how this would look like is that I have to basically, first of all, reach out to the trustworthy person. I have to reach out to the trustworthy person. So how I do, I'm just going to go up here where we on the login component, maybe yes, on the login component where we write all this thing to get a user's address, injected web3 xyz. So I'm going to do all this thing back here, and at this place where I was trying to integrate Subsocial, what I'm going to do, I am so I make sure that all the extensions and the trustworthy version is present there. Now we need to ask that person to sign a transaction on the user's behalf. So we need to get something called a signer. Signer is basically an instance, or you can call it as a signed message also. So this is how it looks like. We say signer and we say web3 from address, and this is something which we're going to add from here. So I'm going to say web3 from address. All right. So we picked up the first person, and we believe that the first person is the primary user. Like the first address is the primary user, and we want to sign from that behalf, his behalf. And once that is done, we are going to basically await. Now we had this transaction already. So all the right functions you have, like all the functions you see on this code snippets which are under the right data, are basically going to return you a transaction. They are not going to return you some data exactly, because it's not a get function, it's a write function. So it's a transaction which you need to sign. So how do we sign? We say sign sync. Okay, and here we pass in the address from which you need to sign. So I say the address is this, the 01 address is 0th address, and from here I'm going to say pass the signer. So I'm going to pass the signer. Make sure you see the format correctly. So that once that is done, now you need to send this transaction. So you say await tx.send, and here you are going to send this transaction. Perfect. Now you need to listen for this transaction changes as this transaction process, because once you send this transaction, the bank, there are different steps for a bank to happen. So in a similar way on the blockchain, first your transaction gets verified. There are different stages of the transaction. It gets verified, then now it gets allotted a transaction hash code, and then it comes for the transaction to get processed. So for their different chains, their different transaction speeds time. But for Subsocial, since it's on the Polkadot ecosystem, it's really fast. So I'm going to just copy this function here, so that we are able to basically see all these things processing quickly. Um, all right, I'm going to copy it from here to here and paste it here. All right. Now this is done, and this result would be okay. So that is done. Now the last thing would be just we ask the user to sign and send the transaction, and we say space transaction. Perfect. we did this thing pretty clearly, and just going to rename this as uh, it's not subsocial. Like change the content a bit. Which space if streamers. Okay, or tag you can say YouTuber or or builder. Perfect. So I created a space. Not say coders space. Okay, perfect. Feels more inclusive. Now we're going to run this function. So where do we run? I'm planning to like invoke these functions once someone tap on this tweet button. So I'm going to go up here, and there should be a widget for this in the home page, this tweet box. Okay, so we have this button action somewhere. Let's see. So we have this button, but it doesn't do anything. Okay, so we add a on-click listener to it. So the on-click listener is going to call on beat button click. Okay, and we're going to define this function here. Const on tweet button click. What we're going to do? We're going to create space. That's it. Perfect. Now I'm going to clean up things here. I'm going to write just anything here just to activate this button. I'm going to click on this button. Now you see that this opened on a different screen, but let's see. Now you can see there that it opened up the Polka.js extension that verified person. So like our app asked the verified person like this extension to give the permission, to sign the transaction. But that verified person asked me, who's the owner, who created like who assigned this verified person, that are you sure you want to do this, sign this transaction? So these are the details. This is the URL which is asking. So I say yes, but it says who are you? Are you the right person? So I have to enter a password here. So I click on, I just set a remind for, remember for 15 minutes, just trust me for next 15 minutes. So I just say sign transaction, and you'll see here the current status is ready. Now it's broadcast. Now, as quickly as it is, the transaction has been processed and the space is been created. Now, where do you see these spaces? How do you make sure that the transaction is being processed? How do you, what does this block hash mean? So for you to check this, I'm just going to copy this block hash, and I'm going to show you quickly about Polka.js apps. So you have to go to here, and since we are on the testnet right now, I am going to click on here, click on testnets, click on Subsocial, soon social, testnet, and click on switch. And from here, click on change state, click on spaces, find spaces up here, spaces, space by owner. I choose my extension, click here. You'll see I was talking about this space I already had. Now I also have this particular space. So that's how it all works. Perfect. Now we have created a space. That's how you post some content on the, like you write some content on the blockchain. Now, what we're going to do next is we won't going to use this create space button to create some space, but either we're going to use this create space on tweet button to write some tweet. We need to post some content on this space. So for that, I'm going to go back to the logics, and I'm going to create a new function here, and this function would be tweet. All right. Uh, let's say post tweet, and I'm going to do something. This will also be an asynchronous function. I hope you will be enjoying. I'm going to pick up a question right now, which someone asked. So if we want to restrict the post to a certain domain, we have to use tags. So yeah, that you can do, of course. That makes sense. Yeah, that's what the purpose of the tags as well. That you already define what type of content people should expect inside a particular space. So you of sorry, but you of course have the freedom to choose the particular tag. For example, whether you want to pick this tag, this tag, or You don't want any tags at all, so you all already have that freedom, but it's good if you use it. Now we were talking about how to post some content. So how do we post content? We go up here, we go to the quick sheet guide, and I'm also going to paste this link for you all in the chats so that you can use this quick reference guide as well. All the links and everything, I'll update the description right after the session, so don't worry on that. So, what we're going to do here, we're going to write data. We have created a space. Now we're going to create a post. So, I'm going to copy this content. A post can also have an image, but as always, we're not going to have an image right now because I'm kind of lazy person. You can try out if you face any queries. It's kind of an assignment for you. Just try out adding images and things like that. Just play with it. If you face any issues, we are here on our Discord, which you have to join to ask your questions. Flat API dot subsocial dot IPFS content, we say image. Now here we have to basically set the post data. So this is the content which we are setting up. All right. So for setting up this content, I'm going to say post tweet. There would be some values. So the simple value is the string, the tweet string we need. So in this, I'm going to say like if we already have a selected profile, which we if you remember when we logged in, we created this selected profile and selected address. So I'm just making sure if we already have it, it's not undefined. Then what we're going to do, we're going to use the selected profile. All right, dot content dot name, and if we don't have it, then we just say it is the address, right? So if we have the name already somewhere on the blockchain, then we're going to use that name. If we don't have that, then we just say just give it the address be the user's identity. Now sorry for this. uh, we don't need tags. So as I said, we have the option to customize according to our needs. So I did it. I don't need any tags for my tweets thing. All right. So I removed this. Now in this section on the body, I'm going to basically say the tweet. That's it. I may need an avatar, which if the user have, I'm going to use, else we're not going to use. So we're going to do the similar way. If selected profile is there, then we're going to say selected profile dot content dot avatar, which is going to be a CID. So in case in future, if we don't want to give enough credit to the creator of the UI, then we're going to use this avatar and replace it with this. So now, once we have created some, now at this place, you don't need to sign something to post some content on the IPFS. So you have just sent some data to the IPFS. It's there. It's there now, but to do something on the blockchain, you need to sign some transactions. But from before doing all these things, we need to post some tweets. So we go and we can do like a regular post there, a shared post, and you can also update a post. Updating a post is pretty simple thing. You are basically mostly updating uh, the content on the IPFS, but it's just that you are not updating the same thing. You are creating a new copy of it. So like if you, let's say for example, if you do some changes on a Facebook post, then it says edited. If you do some changes on a GitHub post, it says edited, but you are able to see all the changes which have been made to that particular edits. What are all the edits have been made. So it's right there. It's not like it's not immutable, it's immutable, but it's just that there are new versions coming up. All right. So we are going to do a regular post. So we're going to copy this content here. We're going to paste it here. We already have the space ID as a global object, so we don't need it. We have the substrate API, and this is called flat API. And we have the post transaction. We do this thing. Now what we need to do, we just need to say send and sign in, send transaction. We just pass in the post transaction. Perfect. I didn't need to copy paste this again, and it will sign and do all the things for me. How good is that? Now I have to say post tweet. Okay, why it's not there? I have not added export here, so it's not exported from this file. Now it is. I'm going to say post tweet, and the post tweet. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the tweet data, and This will be an asynchronous thing. I'm going to wait for it. Basically, sorry for my typo. Now, after I have waited enough for it, I am going to clear the tweet message so that uh, people can basically write some another tweet. It's not just showing up the same tweet again and again. So now that is done. Let's see up this in action. So I go up here. This is the home page. So there is the content. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to write some content. So I say, hi everyone, uh, in the live stream. I say tweet. It's going to open up the polka.js extension again. Since it's less than 15 minutes, I don't need to enter the password again. I just say sign the transaction, and it's going to broadcast. The transaction is done. If I refresh the page, I should be able to see that content as well. Let's see if it is there. Yes, it's there. You can see there is the content. You have created a post on Subsocial. That's how this thing works. Look how easy it is. Now let's say if you want to do something called something like quote tweet. You want to like tweet some retweet something plus adding some of your content, then you can do it using the repost option here. So what you have to do, you have to just choose shared post and enter the id of the previous post. So enter the id of the parent post. That's it. That's it. It's very easy. I got a question here. Let's see what the question says. Can you get post or spaces by other attributes than ID? How do you think what could be the other attributes? For example, if you can give me an example, like it seems like ID is tough to have or tough to handle, but that's the main parameter. Of course, you can get spaces as I showed you already, that we can get a space by an owner. For example, all the spaces of this person, all the posts of this person, all the reaction of this person, you can get by that parameter as well. That's also doable, right? So that is not in the cheat sheet, but it's there in the documentation. So if you see, there's something called click check full docs here. So if you tap on it, it's going to take you there, and it's going to tell you about how you can get data from from the different sources or different functions. So you have to explore the SDK for yourself for that, and if you face any queries, we can help. Filter by tags, for example, for the use case. Okay, so what? Yeah, so as I mentioned, for that is doable, but that is not something you can do using our SDK. You have to do off-chain. So what happens is that what you do with blockchain is you make sure like let me get to this very clearly. So, blockchain helps you to avoid the problems like censorship, avoid the problems with data persistency, avoids the problem with downtime and all these things. But the other problems, like for example, doing fast queries, processing requests very faster, doing some searches, these things can't be done directly on the blockchain because it's a public ledger, it's a linked list if you know about data structures. So for querying and searching and these operations or filtering or something like that, there's certain level of things which are possible, which we are also doing on the blockchain. But above that, you have to do off-chain. Off-chain means you are writing some GraphQL. You are storing the same data which is on the blockchain to some other database to just do some fast searches and just return the data from the blockchain. So you have to handle those things off the chain to do process faster results. So those things are just to optimize the user experience, optimize the overall experience, but at the same time making sure that all the basic requirements like data ownership, consistent, like how like all the things I was mentioning about previously, censorship resistant, and all those things should be there. So I hope that answers your question. If you still have any follow-up questions, then do ask. Else I'm going to complete on the next. Like we'll be moving on the next part. But yeah, the next part would be, I guess, liking a tweet, how you can upvote and downvote a tweet. There's no downvote, so we'll just add the feature to upvote a tweet or like a tweet, basically. So if you have any questions, you can ask up now. If no, then I believe like everything is good. Let's add the final show touch feeling of liking a post. How does that work? Let's see. Let's see in action. Thank you for being till this moment. If you are still watching it from the starting, then you are really great. You have that fire lit to build something crazy, and I would love to see your projects that what you are building, and I would love to mentor. Now let's go back to the uh, page here. So we need to add some functionality on this button. So we go up to the tweet. Uh, this was the tweet box. So we need to go tweet slash index, and here there should be a button to like something. This is the heart button. So on this tab, I'm going to add on click, not on can play, on click. On this on click, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say like post. Uh, Why I added click at the end, I'm going to tell you just to avoid some function parameters because I'm going to create the same function name here like post click. What it, what it has to do, it just have to invoke a new function from our uh, this thing. These are logics. So we go up here, we say export const like tweet sync. It's doesn't need to have anything, I guess. No, it does. It does. We need to have the tweet ID here. So that tweet ID would be the post ID itself, right? So I'm going to go up to my quick reference sheet. I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to go to the. You can also write some comments here. So these are the things I would suggest. Highly suggest that do it yourself and just let me know where you stuck. I'll be happy to help, and that is something like an assignment for you. So I'm going to quickly and yeah, you can also follow something or unfollow something. Like it's a similar way. I know like you already have got how we write logics and how we integrate. So you can all try this. I'm going to quickly go to the reactions. So I have copied this. I want to give a single, and I'm going to create a single reaction. I copy this thing. I paste it here, and uh, I guess I need to add this API dot. Let me see if we have TX here, right? Then why? What's the issue? Maybe add a await. Okay, so we need to add a await here. All right. So that's it. We created a post. We post ID. It's post ID, but we are calling it as a tweet ID. So I'll say tweet ID, and then at the end, I'm just going to say sign and send the transaction, and the transaction would be the action. This we don't need this post ID because we have this tweet ID which we'll be getting when someone invokes this function. We're going to go back to the this and we say like tweet and we're going to pass in the tweet ID. What's the tweet ID? It's props dot ID, I guess. And there could be also a possibility that this ID is not active, like this does not exist because of the type casting, but it will be always existing. But it's just that the type says it might not be there. All right, so I've added this condition, and boom, we are good to go. Let's refresh the page and see if things work. And after that, I'm going to take the questions and see what next we can discuss. So I clicked on this button and it's again going to ask me the permission. I say sign the transaction. It says ready broadcast. You can just add a few like more UI elements to this process, like the we are loading and doing some animations and auto updating the UI. So that is all front end part which you can do. But once you have done this, I'm going to refresh. You would see that the like count should have increased. So you can see the like count has been one, right? You can also fetch the reactions of this post to see that if I like this tweet or someone else liked it or things like that could be done. But I think that you have got all the feel of how to use Subsocial SDK and how you can build awesome apps. So I guess that was the part on building. Now I'm going to pick up a few questions from here. So thanks. One more. Can you add a space inside another space? Let me. Actually, no. Technically, if you're talking on the blockchain side of things, of course, you can have a similar schema on the IPFS and do some content. But if you do something on the blockchain, then I guess we discussed about this part, that the space is here, and inside that space there could be posts. So yeah, inside a space there cannot be another space. It won't make a sense, I guess. But yeah, there could be some posts, and then that there could be repost and replies. But if you are asking this question because you are wondering about how does this thing, like if you want to have some permission controls, and if you want to make sure not everyone posts on the content on the space, no one disturbs that space or something like that, then there are permissions thing which is available. I'll be talking in detail if you need any help on that. There are also other teammates who can also help you on that on different time zones. So 24-hour, you might get the support. All right. Let's move back here. I hope that clears your question. How can we get to try to work in blockchain and Web3? Any internship from Dot or Subsocial or other partnership? Maxwell, you can always reach out to us if you need any type of internship or if you need any job. Like we have been actively hiring at Subsocial, but of course, like if you are a very beginner stage, and you want to get the experience of the blockchain development, then I would suggest you to basically explore about what it is theoretically, what is the need, like I already discussed on those parts. And once you get all those things, then then you can then you can learn on building the blockchain. So there are two things basically. I don't want to take much time on this thing because that would be a bit off the topic. But there are two parts of blockchain development. One is building on top, and other is building the core blockchain. So building a core blockchain requires a totally different skill sets, and building on top of blockchain requires a totally different skill sets. How does these two differ as a development or day-to-day life thing? Then for example, if you are building on top of any blockchain, for example subsocial blockchain, then your whole focus would be around the users, that how I can serve to my users, how I can add more features, how I can make sure that the features with decentralizations are there, the features with the new blockchain things are there, and all those things are there. You can do. So you will be working on more on the front end technologies and the SDKs of these blockchains. All right. And for the other part, which is the building on a building blockchain. So for building the blockchain, you need different languages to know. For example, Rust for subsocial blockchain. If you want to do dot summa or something like that, if you want to do something on Polygon or Ethereum, then you need to. If you want to build your own Ethereum, then you would be using Golang or something like that. For Solana, you also do Rust. So there are different technologies for building the blockchain, and there are different technologies for uh, building on top of the blockchain. What interests me as much is building on top of the blockchain, because in that you are focused on user. Your user is a regular user who have some expectations, who are going to use your blockchain day to day. Whereas when you are building a blockchain, there are a lot of different challenges you face. All these things are very technical, but they don't involve a naive user or a day to day user. It's just that all the developers are your users. All right, I've taken much time on this question. I'm going to move next. Again, this question is from Maxwell. If you have some time, can you say something, a word about yourself? What was your first dev speak, and how did you join blockchain sphere of work? Sure, I'll do at the last of the session, Maxwell, if you don't mind, so that I can answer all the questions around here. So if someone is waiting, thank you very much, MLH test. Uh, yeah, is subsocial hiring? What sorts of skills do we need? Honestly, subsocial is hiring, I guess, but I'm not the one to give the right answer on it. But how I can tell you is that you need to stand out. So if you build on something interesting on top of subsocial, then you will be able to network and get a better idea about what it is, because for the first time most people don't even get what subsocial is and how they can do, how they can explore this technology. So if you build something awesome, our eyes will be on it, and then we might reach out to you, maybe, I'm not sure, and you might also win some cash prize from that. So I hope that answers. uh, Thank you, Maxwell. I am really happy that you liked to being in the session, and since you've been in from the very start of the session till 2 hours, like 1 hour and 50 minutes, that's amazing. I really appreciate your effort too, and I'll be happy to see what you're going to build form of teams. Right now, the only way to build Subsocial is using JavaScript. I'm learning Rust and would like to try to use Subsocial directly in my own palettes, or with other language. You can of course do that. We have Subsocial Rust SDK, which is, I'm not sure how actively we are updating it. I need to reach out to the relevant devs on our support handles for that. But let's say if you are basically want to learn Rust, you have to, like, if you're learning Rust, that's good, I really appreciate that. But you have to be very clear on the objective, that why do you need to integrate Subsocial, or do you even need to have your own chain? The reason being that because maintaining your own chain is not an easy task. For example, you have to convince a lot of nodes to run for you, and to make sure that you are decentralized enough so that people can rely on you. It's not just that you are using Rust, you have some similar transactions and those things, but you are not decentralized enough. So there are a lot of challenges involved other than just the development for maintaining a blockchain. So that's why people prefer, if there's already a step, like established blockchain to use, and build on top of that, because there are a lot of possibilities open up when you build on top of that. And most of the, I guess, dapps you have heard of are built on top of some chains. There are few chains which reaches to that point that there are a lot of dapps built on them. Okay. If you all have any other questions, then do let me know. Else, I'm going to tell something about myself, since it's the end of the talk. And let me see. Yeah. So all the support things you can see up here. The best thing I would say is that I've messaged or check-in form. Just fill that out so that I'll be reaching out to you, and I'll be adding you to the hacker role. And I feel most of the you people are already be there, but let's see. Now, so about me, I have been working on blockchain for quite some time. Um, like decent time, and I've been interested into this because of the possibilities it have opened, and I've been very concerned about like social products, because I'm also one of the person who is not 100% going to build on top of, like, build on technical things and doing some code, writing code all the day, not worrying about the users. So I'm not building projects in my life, I'm focused more on building products. So for a project plus a user makes your and when you deploy it makes a product. So you are focused on that life cycle and you keep on building. So yeah, that is about me. If you want to know more about particularly me, then you can go to my website tusharocha.com, and there you will be able to find everything about me. And if you want to reach out personally, then this is my Twitter handle. I'll be happy to connect with you all. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for all for joining all. This is like, you are really awesome people who have been there for 2 hours straight up. And at the last, I would just wanted to say that I'll be really happy to see what you're going to build on top of Subsocial. We have all the four bounties there. If you really want, I can just quickly walk you through about those bounties. All of them have around like 3,000 up to $3,000 of prizes on each bounty. So just keep on build and just keep on building. Never stop building, and I'll be happy to see. Okay, that's it from my side. If you still have a few questions, last ending questions, then you can ask. Then we can end this live stream. Yeah. Okay, one last thing I have to do before I forget. I'm going to quickly show the screen. Okay, so let's finish it to the I'm going to just push the code for you so that if you want to take a reference about how things work here, so you can take it. So I'm just going to add all the things. I'm going to say commit, uh, added like uh, code read and space feature. I'm going to push it for you all. So all the code is pushed. You can check out on the link I mentioned, and I'm going to update the description after the stream. All right. Thank you everyone for joining in. See you. And if you have any questions, join our Discord and Telegram and ask your questions there. Bye.